Welcome, everybody, back to the Financial Advisors Workshop. This is the show where we interview great financial advisors of all different types of models and the way they run their business in America, working with the public. So our folks are dedicated to working with high net worth investors and giving them the best service and best programs that they can. Today, we have Spencer Sherman. Spencer is the founder and now former CEO of Abacus. And it's a $3 billion company. Welcome, Spencer, to our show.
Thank you, Brian. Great to be here. Yeah.
So glad to have you. And I really am very intrigued. We had a discussion here before we started taping the show about your model and how it runs. And I would tell you from the interviews that we have, it's very different than some of the firms that we have. So I want to explore that with you just for a few minutes. Tell us a little bit about, Spencer, about your firm and your founding of it and all. Give us a few minutes on that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess what also comes to mind in the founding of my firm is I had a lot of experience with law firms, and that kind of collegiality that I experienced in law firms was something that I wanted to create at Abacus, more of a collaborative environment where people were not just like, these are my clients, it's my silo. And I also wanted to give people the opportunity to really grow their careers. And maybe somebody wants to become a CEO one day. That happened at Abacus. 2 advisors became CEOs. So I wanted to create a model where you could share your clients with other advisors at the company. They didn't just have to be your clients. They're really the clients of the company. And it gives people a lot more flexibility and freedom. We also do sabbaticals for our partners. So all that becomes easier in that collaborative environment. And there are downsides, as we talked about, Brian. You know, I think the model where you have every client, every advisor has their own clients, it's simpler to manage. It's much simpler compensation-wise. There's probably less confusion of, well, why is this person making more than me or something like that? It's more black and white, and there's more accountability is easier in that kind of model. So I think, they're both valid models, and we just felt like, I felt originally, even before I merged with my co-founder, that this model was going to give me the opportunity to become sort of a coach, a sales trainer in the organization, really focus on being the CEO and not have to be just servicing my clients.
Right. Good. Well, good. So then you've had how many people join you with that same view? They bring in their practice. They're essentially selling the practice of the firm, getting stock in the firm. And then, then they obviously at some point they could leave, sell their stock, whatever they're going to do. People have done that.
Yeah. So we have 24 partners today. We have 70 people altogether. And, this year we're going to be inviting, I think it's 4 people to partnership. So hopefully we'll get to 28 partners by the end of 2024. And every partner has the ability to take a 6-week sabbatical, which is very exciting. Every 5 years, you get a 6-week sabbatical, and there are partner retreats. And, there's a little more accountability when you become a partner, but there's also a much more lucrative career path when you become a partner too.
Interesting. Well, good. So 28 people or so have done it. And then you mentioned that there were some that have joined and then have cycled out and completely left. So when they leave, they sell their stock.
That's right. So we had 4 partners leave 3 years ago, and they sold their stock. And instead of in that case, I think most of those partners took their clients with them. So that was the equivalent of taking, instead of us paying for their shares when they sold their shares, that we allowed them to take their clients with them. So, there was an accounting of the value of the clients, and how much cash needed to be exchanged to make them whole and make us whole.
Okay, great. So what did those four go off and do? They left together and then went to do something.
Yeah. They started their a separate, smaller, much smaller firm.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting. So they went back to a different model that they wanted to have.
Yes. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, this is interesting. So you have an interesting model. So tell everybody how that has worked. So has the promise of this type of model worked, and tell us in what ways it's different.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it'll, I really enjoy bringing on clients. And we have a few other people at the firm that really love bringing on clients. And we have a lot of people who don't like bringing on clients, but they're great at servicing clients. So that allows someone like me to focus on the business development. And then I'm delegating those clients to other people to service. And it's easy for me to do that because I know that these are my partners and that we're all in this together. We're all sharing the profits together. So there's a lot of trust with that. I think in another model, in a more of a silo model, it's a little trickier to bring in clients and share them with other people. And at some point, even if I was servicing all my clients all by myself, I don't have enough hours in the week to share all of them. So I have to get other people involved.
Okay. Very good. So it's worked in that sense.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Excellent. And how does the delivery of services work within the firm? Do all clients get similar set of services because it's one big firm, or do different partners get to say, I want to do this with certain people,
Yeah.
or that with others?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, so we offer people a couple of investment options, but on the investment side, you basically can pick three different ways of going, and you have control over the allocation, but you have to conform to our investment models. You can't just do anything. It's not like being at a wirehouse or something where you can do anything investment wise with your clients. And the same with financial planning. There's a script, there's a structure for carrying out financial planning, and you have to abide by that. There are certain deliverables that have to be met with financial planning. So it's we're trying to really give a pretty consistent product, although of course the clients that are much larger, just usually get more services. I mean, there's more estate planning services, more philanthropic consulting services involved, more business consulting services involved when clients are larger in size.
So that's great. So Spencer, is that because they just need more? And then the smaller clients don't need philanthropy and other services, or is it just you want to try to develop them more?
I mean, it usually small clients that are, just saving up money for a first home are not that philanthropic,
Right.
and don't have estate planning issues. So you don't need to spend the time on those areas as much. They can do a simple will. It's much less complex. You're not talking about different trust options and gifting strategies and stuff like that, and charitable strategies. So there's just, I mean, you're talking about other things. Maybe you're spending more time talking about how to apply for a mortgage, or what the best credit card is for your situation, or how to, whether you should buy or lease a car, where, for somebody who's got $20 million, those issues are less important.
Yes. So it is really driven essentially by the need of the client, and
Yeah.
smaller asset-based clients don't need as many services, and larger clients have more complications and more
Yes.
and more opportunities at the same time.
Yes.
Very good. But doing it this way, it allows you to standardize it across the whole firm in a sense, instead of this advisor doing this and that
Yeah.
advisor, right?
Yeah, yeah, it becomes tricky with a firm of 70 people to have people, doing it in all different ways. And that's, you could say the plus or the minus of a larger firm like ours is, every client has a pretty similar experience. Um, so there's some leeway for each advisor, but you just can't go on on a limb. And what I like about that, when I'm referring the clients I bring into advisors, that I tell my friends that I bring in, is you're going to get a very similar experience at Abacus, no matter who is your advisor. So they feel good about that. Like, because sometimes advisors leave, or there's not a good fit between the client and the advisor, and we need to change the advisor. And that would be weird to, like, oh, wow, this advisor believed in, everything should go into, tech stocks. And now I'm going to move you to a client that doesn't believe in tech. I mean, that would be a harder situation. But having this more centralized approach, I think makes it easier to run a firm of our size.
So how does it come to like portfolio allocation? So I assume you have different portfolio models that you guys would recommend, right?
Mhm.
So are certain clients more aggressive than certain clients are less aggressive, depending on just their objectives?
Yeah, yeah. So yeah. I mean, I think that it's the job of the advisor team. I mean, there is a team on every single client, except for maybe this the smallest clients, and that team has to assess the risk profile, which is always tricky, as you know, Brian, because human beings are very subject to the winds of life. And if the markets are soaring, more human beings say, I can handle a lot of risk. When the
Right.
markets are going down, we all say, no, 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 I'm actually a very conservative investor. Uh, and there's so many other factors that go in there, like, when you were born, when your parents were born, all those things really bias us. And I think our job as financial advisors is to try to get to the truth that is the truth is tempered by their emotions. But I think it's wrong if we completely cater to a client's emotions, like um just because it's 2008 and the markets are down 40%, does that mean we should make the client be all in bonds just because the client is terrified? I think it's our job to find a comfortable, happy medium there. Because I don't think we're doing our fiduciary duty if we let the client's emotions drive the investment allocation completely. Because then when the markets go down, that client is going to be telling you to sell everything. And I think we're the backstop to say, hey, you hired us to put your emotions in check. There's value to your emotions. It makes sense that you're scared about things going down further, but actually, the right thing to do right now is not to sell.
Interesting. Good. And that's worked out usually pretty well when we've done.
You mean when we've tried to counsel clients? Yeah, I mean, like I said, we're trying to find a happy medium for clients that, I mean, the aggressive, I mean, like I had a client who's very aggressive with his business life, and he's got some other investments on the side that are very aggressive. So his Abacus portfolio is way more conservative because I wanted to balance everything else. And then the other driver of risk tolerance, Brian, is how much risk does this client need to take to meet their goals? And maybe you don't need a all stock portfolio. Maybe you only need 20% in stocks or 30% or 40% in stocks. And so I like to give the client that information and say, you don't need a lot of stocks in this portfolio. You could have it. It'll just give you more money to give away to philanthropy, but you don't need it for your lifestyle.
Great. Interesting. Very good. Very good. Well, you've been an author as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I wrote a book called The Cure for Money Madness, which is all about emotion, all about the craziness of why even financial advisors do crazy stuff with their own money. And it's that's what makes this field so fascinating for me that really smart people with PhDs or MBAs will buy high and sell low.
Right.
Um, and you see the journalists who are very smart people, often telling us to do the opposite of what we should do.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how is the book sold a lot? Have you gone on tour and all that?
The book came out in 2009 at the bottom of that recession, like February 2009. It made the San Francisco bestsellers list. So I was very happy about that. And I did a whole national book tour back then in 2009. And yeah, since then I've been, I often give the book out to clients because it's a very helpful thing because it's so much aligned with the strategy of Abacus.
You plan to write any more?
I might. No firm plans yet, but I might. It's like once you write a book, you have a love-hate relationship with it. I don't know if it's similar to having children, but it's like I love the process, and it was very challenging writing the book.
I bet. I bet. So the money madness is really a focus, and what kinds of things do you see out there? You mentioned a few things about how people panic and they sell at the wrong times. What other manifestations of money madness do you see?
Oh, just in the way people spend, the impulsivity with the way people spend, with the way people choose business partners, or will work themselves to death, not realizing that the money you make this year is not as important as the money you're going to make over your lifetime. And if you're in a job that's killing you, it's actually irrational to stay in a job that's going to ruin your health, because that's going to ruin your lifetime expected income. That's what you should focus on. Is I want to maximize my income over the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years. Find work that you love. And because if you can make $100,000 a year for 40 years, that's a lot better than making $200,000 a year for only 10 years.
Right.
So, that's what I would say is people make that mistake. And they're spending both, people they spend impulsively. They buy houses sometimes, take less time to buy a house than they do to buy a toaster or something. But there's also people who they're so terrified of not having enough that they don't spend anything. They don't enjoy their money. And they just leave it to their kids, who then get the message you shouldn't spend money. So they just hoard the money sometimes. So there's a lot, like, what is this money for? And I think we need to turn to the evidence. Have someone do a projection for you to see what's enough. So if you're spending too much or too little, because either way is not healthy for you to spend. You don't want to overspend or underspend.
These are good thought processes for people, for sure. So you've led retreats as well, but mindful advisor retreats or mindful investing. Is it just for advisors, or do you do it with clients too?
No, they're just for advisors. I also invite attorneys, accountants. We've had philanthropic advisors at these retreats. It's a 24-hour no device, which sounds crazy, but we ask people to let go of their devices. Yes, to let go of those things for 24 hours. It goes from 3:00 on a Wednesday to 3:00 on a Thursday. And during that time, there's a lot of collaboration. We're using each other as sounding boards. It's like, imagine having 20 professionals that you're spending a lot of time with in a beautiful setting at the Pacific Ocean in Northern California. And you're getting to bounce off, business ideas, life planning ideas with them, client ideas, and then we're role playing client situations out also. So a lot of learning happens from that. And people have found business partners at the Mindful Advisor Retreat, but they've also just up-leveled their professionalism. They've increased their emotional intelligence, because a lot of the success in our business is, how do we respond to that potential client as we're trying to bring on clients, or how do we respond to an existing client who's upset about the markets? That ability to emotionally connect with another really is a driver of our success.
Nice.
Yes. And that's what we do at the Mindful Advisor Retreat. We're doing we're a lot of us who are financial advisors, I hope to think, we've got the raw intelligence, but we also need the emotional intelligence as well.
Yes. Well, this is great. So you do have a totally different approach, and so maybe some of our brethren will learn from this, and rather than the eat what you kill kind of strategy of a lot of
Yeah.
firms, and you got a collaborative effort, and it seems to have worked really well for you. So congratulations on your great success.
Yeah, well, thank you, Brian. And I'll just say that if anyone's interested in if that Mindful Advisor Retreat resonates with you, the next one is May 15th to 16th. And you can check out my website, which is spencer-sherman.com, spencer-sherman.com for more information.
Wonderful. That's awesome. I hope some of our listeners take you up on that. Spencer, I think we're ending our time at this point, but thank you so much for being with us today in the Financial Advisors Workshop.
Thank you, Brian. Great to talk with you.
Thanks. Same here. And thanks everybody for being with us. We'll be back again with another really great interview. We learned so much from these interviews and really appreciate Spencer. And thanks for everybody for being with us. Bye-bye now.